G'day everyone, Carlos here. Welcome to another episode of What's Up in Archaeology. How are you guys? How are you, Malachite? How are you, Archaeonomy? Sorry I couldn't be on last night. Family stuff, family matters come first. Just went out with my dad. He wanted to see a game and nothing serious. So better him than anything I do, obviously. I love my dad. So today I have three articles. They're going all over the place. Some historical archaeology, some not so historical archaeology, and some really, really deep, not even anthropology or archaeology, it's biology. And a bit of a background, humans are in a place in the line. It's not a start and finish line, obviously. Evolution doesn't work that way. We do belong to a lineage that extends back in time. We are Homo sapiens, our species, and we are the subspecies sapiens. There are other members. There were other members, of course, and which have gone extinct. So we can place these these hominins into a lineage that it looks like an uninterrupted line back in time. But there are still holes in that line. Obviously, they are being filled in slowly, because this takes a hell of a long time to do and a hell of a lot of work. Recently, well, in the August 9th of this year, there was announced the discovery or the study of a fossil of what could be, because of the time of the dating of this specimen, it could be where the boundary of where I think I better get into it because it's better explained. The article explained. It's again from the Max Planck Institute of biogenetics, and etc. I've talked about this institute before. Genome mapping of it is just perfect. Just not perfect. It's the authority in extracting and mapping DNA. So I will share the screen as usual. So on chat we have, I said already, hello John the Bemused, Jimmy Stiff Fingers, mate, Philip Daniel, how are you? And let's get on to it. As you can see, the Max Planck Gesellschaft Institute, of course, and Evolutionary Biology, this article. Well, fossil ape skulls confirmed African origin of apes and humans. That is the big discovery, yes. A 13-million-year-old Alesi. Alesi is the nickname they gave to this little fossil. Lucy is the nickname of Australopithecus and Australopithecus afarensis that was discovered by the Leakeys. And this one was also discovered in Kenya. The remarkable complete fossil ape skull reveals what the common ancestor of all living apes and humans may have looked like. So the timeline and the specimen is of the period where we think is where the apes, the modern apes, the modern large apes, originated from, and we being one, also our sort of direct descendant, yes. The find belongs to an infant which lived about 13 million years ago. The research was done by an international team led by Isaiah Nengo of the Stony Brook Institute, affiliated to Kana Basin Institute and the Anza College of the USA. A senior author, Fred Spoor of UCL in the UK, University College of London, and the Max Planck Institute of Evolutionary Anthropology in Leipzig, Germany. They were part of the research teams. This, you can see the picture of the skull. You can see his eyes. He's clearly a primate. Forward-facing eyes, nose, nasal cavity, etc. Humans are most closely related to living ape species, including chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, and gibbons. Our common ancestor with the chimpanzees lived in Africa about 6 to 7 million years ago. And many spectacular fossil finds have revealed how humans evolved since then. In contrast, little is known about the evolution of our common ancestor of living apes and humans more than 10 million years ago. We had the common fossils up to about 10 million years, more or less, and this one just broke back. They pushed the finds back, much like earlier this year we found that our own lineage, Homo sapiens sapiens, they evolved about 100,000 years earlier than was expected in Morocco, from the Morocco site. Relevant fossils are scarce, considering mostly of isolated teeth and partial jawbones. It has therefore been difficult to find answers to two fundamental questions: did the common ancestor of living apes and humans originate in Africa, and what did these early ancestors look like? This is sort of in response to the Greco-Pithecus find of the 7.5 million year old hominin, which it was the time, more or less the time when, as this article says, when humans, well, humans, not humans, the human lineage that would eventually lead to humans, and the chimpanzees split between 6 and 7 million years ago. That was then found that Greco-Pithecus was found in mainland Europe, more or less mainland Europe, in Bulgaria and in Greece. But as I mentioned in the What's Up in Archaeology discussing Greco-Pithecus, the Mediterranean Sea didn't exist, and there would have been the range of these primates would have extended into Africa, of course, because we do have 7 million year old examples of a closely related, possibly even the same, but 2 million years, 1.5 million years is a long time. So we can't say that they were the same species, but they could have been very, very closely related. And we will find more samples, more fossils of this period the more we dig. So we will be waiting for it. So yeah, the relevant fossils are scarce, mostly isolated, as I said. That's why this one said the fossil is from the Miocene, which is a time period that ended in the Pleistocene, about 2 million years ago. 2 million years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 2 million years ago. I'm trying to think back to my basic archaeological training. Now, these questions can be more fully. By the way, you guys can hear me well, can't you? I'm not too soft, too loud, just so I can adjust the microphone. I'll wait because it takes a bit of a time before the And while I say that, hello, Warped, the Leaky Monkey. How are you, man? So I think I can be heard because the little green bar in the Google Hangouts thing is flashing nicely. So I will assume that you guys can hear me. Good. Back to the article. Because of the newly discovered ape fossil named Alesi by its discoverers. I don't know why Alesi. It's a good name. It's not the tennis player, the French tennis player, John Alesi. No, it was a Formula One driver. So who knows? By its discoverers. And known by its museum number of KNM NP 59050. Comes from a critical period, a time period in African past. In 2014, it was spotted by Kenyan fossil hunter John Ekuzi in 13 million year old rock layers in the Napudet area west of Lake Turkana. Lake Turkana, up until they've beginning to find other spots, other, they're not critical spots because then nothing's critical in this thing, but oh yes, in scientific terms, no, we don't really call that a long time. 2 million years is a blink of an eye, Jimmy Stiffingers, just to answer your questions. I can visualize 13 billion years, and it doesn't even register too much in my brain. It's easy to visualize that huge time zones. So, but that's just me. I'm a bit weird in that. I love time. That's probably my superpower, visualizing time, because I can visualize time. It's fucking spectacular. It's like a film. But anyway, let's get back to what's irrelevant. I'm sort of going back in, I think. The fossil in the skull of an infant, and it is the most complete extinct ape skull known in the fossil record. Many of the most informative parts are preserved inside the fossil, and make these visible to the team used an extreme sensitive form of 3D X-ray imaging in the synchrotron facility in Grenoble, France. So they basically took an X-ray to find the rest of the bones and so on. Even this, because this is so delicate. This little sample, this little fossil, it's more delicate than the thinnest eggshells you can imagine. These fossils of this age, and to get to this time, 13 million years for this little, it's the size. It's small. I think I'm reading this as, I didn't read this beforehand because I like to do sometimes read react as you guys go along, as you do. But this is so delicate. It's more delicate than eggshells. The most delicate of dove eggshells. Can you imagine how thin they are? And this is how the same delicacy is what you eat. The skull, where was I? Yes. We were able to reveal the brain cavity, the inner ears, and the uninterrupted by adult teeth in their with their daily record of growth lines, said Paul Tafro of the European Synchrotron Radiation Facilities. The quality of our images was so good that we could establish from the teeth that the infant was about 1 year and 4 months old when it died. This is the level that we are now. We don't need to cut open to destroy samples in order to see the growth lines. When I see this, it just blows my mind. From when I studied archaeology when I graduated in 1992, this was a dream. This was unavailable. This was science fiction to me, and now it's a reality. And I am lucky to be. I'm being a bit excited because to me this is so exciting. It's like discovering Tutankhamun's tomb again. These little discoveries, they're just awesome. The uninterrupted adult teeth inside the infant's ape skulls also indicated that the specimen belonged to a new species. I need a drink before I pronounce the name because I'll have to say it slowly because it's just awesome. Now, it is Neanzapithecus alesi, the species name taken from the Turkana word for the ancestor Ales. Until now, all Neanzapithecus species were only known from teeth, and it was an open question whether or not they were even apes. Which John Fiegel notes from the Stony Brook Institute. That's in the United States. The Stony Brook Institute are really good. They also do marine stuff. They have a ship that has maps, the seafloor, etc. They have even a submarine ship. Bathyscape, that's it. Sometimes words follow. I think did me. Oh, hello, Carlos David, my friend. How are you, mate? Importantly, the cranium was fully developed bony ear tubes, an important feature linking it with living apes. Alan Miller of Wake Forest University. A lazy skull is about the size of a lemon, not a very big lemon. So there are huge lemons that you can find sometimes in the grocery store, but these are just normal lemon size. It's about the size of about a cat's head, more or less. A little bit, possibly a little bit bigger. And it is notably small, stout. It looks mostly like a baby gibbon. This gives the initial impression that it was an extinct gibbon, Chris Gilbert of Hunter College, New York. However, our analysis showed that the appearance is not exclusively found in gibbons and evolved multiple times among extinct apes, monkeys, and their relatives. We also have a flat face, so we sort of share some features of this little critter. Analysis shows that the appearance that the new species was certainly not gibbon-like in the way it behaved. Could be shown from the balance organs inside the inner ears. The gibbons are well known to have their fast and acrobatic behavior in trees, said Fred Spoor. But the inner ears of Alasia show that it would have had a much more cautious way of moving around. Neanthropithecus alesi was part of a group of primates that existed in Africa for over 10 million years, concludes lead author Isaiah Nengo. What the discovery of Alesi shows that this group was close to the origin of living apes and humans, and that this origin was African. The work was supported by the Leakey Foundation, the trustees Gordon Getty, etc., etc. This is from the Leakey Foundation. You can see this picture. I'll blow it up a bit, not literally. You can see the fingers of a normal size. This is the hand of Isaiah Nengo. I know this because I've seen other pictures, and you can see the size of it compared to his hand. It's small. You can see the eye sockets, where the teeth are, etc. So it's an exciting thing. Yeah, mini kangs. Now this mini kangs. Yeah, like I said, that's fun is. And I'll before I go on to the next article, just say hello to the rest of the people that show up again. Is it a hobbit? No, it's not a hobbit. The hobbits are actually a Homo floresiensis from Indonesia. They are supposedly the hobbits, but no. So we finished Africa, and now we're going across the Atlantic into something that has to do with agriculture. And you guys know that agriculture was firstly developed in what is called the Fertile Crescent, which is an area that I've said before goes from the Taurus Mountains in Turkey, which borders Syria, etc., goes down where modern-day Lebanon, Israel, etc. Then it turns into the to Iraq, etc. That area is the Fertile Crescent. So we call it these days the Middle East. There is, I've done various other What's Up in Archaeology about. Hello, Bam Bam. How are you, man? About where agriculture developed, but it also independently developed in China and across the Atlantic in the Americas, especially South and Central America. And we are going there now. Specifically, we're going to talk about maize and some new discoveries on its domestication, because anything that is domesticated from the wild, it is genetically modified. So agriculture is basically producing GMOs. We do it now with gene splicing, where we once used to do by pollinating, specific or selective pollination. So yeah, that's why I don't follow the screeching bandwagon of GMO is bad for you and etc. There's no evidence because we've also modified from the start, genetically modified only through different techniques, organisms. So we shall share this article on the maize on how it was adapted to higher altitudes. We are at the Archaeology magazine, Archaeological Institute of America, and it said scientists examined corn's high altitude history. Here we go. A picture from Johannes Kraus. No, it's not Kraus' cousin or something. But oh, hello, Modwayne. How are you, mate? No worries, Keonomy. It's cool, man. If it's for me or for the other Carlos, because there are too many Carloses in the stream. No, there is not enough Carloses in the stream. The more, the merrier. Tübingen, Germany. Early farmers in Mexico are thought to have domesticated the maize plant around sometimes 4,000 years ago. According to a report by Nature News, I'm sure that's where the actual study, the published study, is located. If not, you guys don't be lazy. I give you links in my articles. They have links. Follow them. They are useful. If you guys want to read some more. The practice of growing maize then spread north into southwest United States, but the evidence suggests that the plant wasn't grown in high altitude regions for another 2,000 years. So it was a low level type plant. There's no confusion, Malachite. The Paleolithic diet is not what it's served today. But one day I may do a live stream in not the too distant future with some other people, and we will discuss the Paleolithic quote unquote diet and how fucking bullshit the modern nutritionists try to push it. But that's for another day. Research is led by Kelly Swartz of the Max Planck Institute of Developmental Biology. I love this Max Planck Institute. God, I love this place. They are so awesome. They are the best place to get things of anything to do with genomes and biology, etc. They examined genomes obtained from 2,000-year-old maize cobs unearthed in high-altitude cave in Utah and compared them to the genomes and physical traits of modern corn plants. The study indicates that it may have taken 2,000 years for early farmers to hit upon the right combination of natural variations occurring in the plants to successfully crop growth in the uplands. So it took them 2,000 years of GMO to get the plant to grow at high altitude caves. We can do that now in 6 months with some gene splicing. It's just time. Cornflakes. Gee, guys, I love you guys. You make me. Oh man, this is awesome. You guys are cool. Such as a shorter, bushier shape with more branches than modern plants. The ancient high-altitude plants were also thought to have had a shorter growing season than the plants grown at lower elevations. Well, yes, mostly due possibly to the less sun. You see, the high-altitude valleys, possibly in Utah. I don't know Utah. Well, the Rockies. As they extend down into the Andes and so on, they are possibly the similar morphology of the landscape. So you have valleys, high altitude valleys, where surrounded by high peaks. So in these growing conditions, you would have direct sunlight, especially the more north you go, during a shortened period of time. If you go into the equator, you have more or less, because the sun's directly overhead, you have quite a good range of direct sunlight over a more extended period, because even if the valleys are quite steep sided valleys, because the sun's is high straight up, it just shines directly onto the valley. But the more northern altitude you go, the more northern latitude you go, because of the angle of the sun, it covers less. Those valleys receive less direct sunlight in the day than the sun, than in the south, the more closer to the equator you go. So that would indicate why they have a shorter growing season. That's how I think I interpret it. Most likely that's the correct answer, because it's basic biology and etc. So in reality, promising for the maize future is that it was much standing variations, because there were so many variations in the maize plant at that time, between 4 and 2,000 years ago, that they would have enough genetic stock to breed into the characteristics that they wanted. Now, like I said, we do it genetically. So yeah, assuming that we can conserve this diversity, we need to do this. It wouldn't take 2,000 years. We could do it in a lot faster now. There you go. I'm reading this at the same time as you guys. This was a short article, something just to show you that an archaeologist just doesn't always deal with bones and shit. This is part of archaeology. We need to know these things, and it's always interesting, because that's how we feed. That's how we feed it. We fed the growing populations that were allowed by domestication, and also sedentarism. This led to people stop being nomads, because they could stay in one place. So we finished this one. The next article, it's for my dear friend. Well, I thought about both you, Modwayne, and Sage. God, what's his name? I keep forgetting. Sage Console. This one is an article that deals with the Vikings. I love the Vikings, by the way. Even though they attacked our coasts and here, they didn't get to where I live, but they did attack close to the some areas of where in the northern part of Portugal I live, and Galicia, in the Spanish part. So we shall share. We shall talk about this, because as I'm saying, I'm reading this along with you guys. I archived them, the links, and I've also archived them. So I'm. Sorry, Modwine. Sorry, missed that message. Carlos had a bio. I know, Modwine, you're Dutch, but that's still that area of Europe were influenced by the Vikings. I know, and so on. Shit, even where I live was influenced by the Vikings. You're forgetting. Well, that the first king of Portugal's father, his name was Afonso of Bourgogne in France, the Burgundians were descendant from the Normans, and consequently descended from the Vikings, sort of. So you see what I mean? Anyway, let's get into the article. It's interesting. I think it is. No, it is interesting. Trust me. I don't pick uninteresting articles to read. So this is from yes, cool. What Wayne? Shit, I'm not trying to be, be an idiot or anything, Yeah, but anyway, let's get back before I put my foot further up my mouth and so on. I need a drink. Exactly. Vikings weren't kings. They were warriors. Anyway, from news network Archaeology, pearls, Viking swords, spears, and shields among hundreds of items excavated in northern Iceland. Now, archaeologists working in Disney's recent discovered Viking Age burial site in, oh God, let me see if I can pronounce this right. Eyjafjord in northern Iceland. I may have mispronounced this part, but I know it's Eyjafjord. I don't know how to spell this bit. The funny A and U and R. I know the O with the two dots on top is your. I know how to pronounce most of it, so forgive me. In northern Iceland are still busy excavating an invaluable treasure. Hundreds of items have been found at this site, among them 2 swords, 3 spears, and 3 shields. And you can see a picture of the sword. Well, the second sword. Both swords were badly damaged by rust. They can practically restore them, by the way. It takes a hell of a lot of time. They basically have to reconvert the iron oxide back into iron. And there is a chemical process that restorers use, and I know of it. I studied it a little bit. So yeah, this is I did a sort of a field internship type thing where I had to restore stuff, and they told me how they restore iron, even as badly rusted as this. And it is fascinating. Trust me, it is pure chemistry. It's beautiful. I know Sandre would have loved to explain how they convert iron oxide back into the iron to preserve swords and so on. It's really fascinating. On what archaeonomy, if I may ask? What a video on what? Oh, well, it'll never become 100%, but it'll become stable. That's where conservation of metals try to get to. It's not really my expertise, but I could try and get in a chemist to explain it. But yeah. Ayafya, I used to know how to pronounce that. Trust me. Ayafya, something. Anyway, I'm going. Well, I can still talk. This has been too fast because this is the last article, and it's only 10:30. It's only been half an hour, so I'm going a bit too fast. So I'll talk afterwards. So a total of 6 Viking Age graves have been found at the site, including 2 confirmed boat burials. Only 2 of the burials have been fully excavated, and archaeologists are currently exploring the 3rd burial. The site is unusual for many reasons, not least where the 2 boat burials have been discovered. Boat burials are very, very rare in Viking archaeology, etc. etc. Um, I don't know the Saxons if they did call all the Scandinavians Danes, because possibly because of the Danish kingdom at the time being the most powerful. Possibly, I don't know. It's history, a bit of history which I don't know too much about. But I love reading these things of archaeology. This is almost European historical archaeology. In Australia and New Zealand, historical archaeology is anything about after 1850s, 60s. So up until the end of the Edwardian era. That's what my historical archaeology teacher taught me. In the United States, it is from Columbus, but mainly not from Columbus, from the Pilgrims, the first Pilgrims, until again the early 1900s. That's historical archaeology of the Americas. So yes. Anyway, I'm digressing again. The Viking age boat burials are very rare in Iceland, and they're also not very common elsewhere. They're possibly more common, of course, in the Scandinavian countries, but they would be under the ocean, the sea, because I don't know about how I don't claim to know how the Vikings. I know that they buried them in boats. There are many. In fact, Archaeology, you did that video on that boat burial in God. What's his name in the UK? Shit. I can't remember the name. Name's fucking God. I hate myself for not remembering names, but I know these facts, so yeah, it compensates. The site was badly damaged due to erosion. Almost half of one of the burials already excavated had been washed away by the sea. Hilud Gestsdottir, I think. Sutton Hoo, yes, that's the one. That was a ship burial, wasn't it? Academy. Who was in charge of it told the local news site Vizier that despite the erosion of the site had already yielded so many items, the team no longer took any special note when new skulls or weapons were found. That's a bit lazy. You take note of every minuscule object you find. God damn it! Where is that discipline that I learned as an archaeologist? Yeah, that's fine. Archaeology, that's cool. Yep, but it's still basically the same type of thing that they did. So yeah, I'm disappointed that they are so nonchalantly not being surprised or excited. I'd be excited if they found a fragment of something. God damn it! That's the site itself, a photograph, one of the burial boats. You can sort of see an outline around them, but I'm not sure that's the boats would have been bigger. I think, I don't know, but the burial mound, but it would shape of a boat. I don't know. You can see some of the layers that were used by the burial type thing, stone, dirt stone, etc., to make layers. So we are now finishing excavations of the third burial of 6 we have located. It has been damaged by erosion and seems grave robbers may have also disturbed this burial at this point. It's like throwing a spanner into the works, because if the site is disturbed in any way stratigraphically, it becomes very, very difficult to date certain objects. For example, if you have multiple burials on one area and it's all mixed up by grave robbers, rats, rodents, rabbits, etc., moles, mixing up the layers, we can't take the contextual layer that any of those artifacts would belong to. And grave robbers, oh man, they are so evil. I call them evil because they are. Now, 2 swords, 3 spears, 3 shields, and peels. I don't know what that is. I don't know what a peel is. If you guys know what it is, you can tell me. Danes robbed the grave. And we are no longer surprised when we find new items. Well, that's... I would always be surprised if I found newer items. God damn it. Even if it's a million shards of broken pottery, every one of those million shards, I'd be excited in finding them. I love discovery. But that's just me anyway. I'm a bit weird on that. Another reason the site is unusual is the size of the burials found. All the burials are huge. Not humongous, but huge. We are talking about 8 or even 9 meters long. Yeah, that's about it. That's about 9 meters long. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8. About 8 meters long, this burial mound here, this burial boat. I also have a sort of a good eye for measuring lengths and so on. I'm using the humans as the measuring type thing. So yeah, I'm really bad at words, guys. Sorry about that. when I type and when I speak, 2 different things. I type better than I speak. So yeah, there's far larger than anything we have seen in other sites. We have been speculating that this is connected with some regional tradition not found in other parts of Iceland, which could... Do they say it? If it's a regional tradition, that means it's a different tribe. It could mean that different cultural identities colonized Iceland from different parts that brought in their culture. So this is an identification of one type of Viking culture of the people that settled in Iceland, as opposed to other type of cultural manifestations, which is still within the global Viking, or should I say, because Vikings weren't just one people. They were what is now Norway, Sweden, Denmark, primarily, and each of these peoples had different cultural identities, cultural references, etc. You can even see it today in a local scale. If you go to the UK today, I'm using the UK because I am culturally, it is culturally my reference point. Culturally, I am a Brit of Australian, not origin, but Australian, growing up in, so on. Now, the southern, for example, the Cornwallians, they express their Britishness, you can say it, in a different way to the Northumbrians, or even the Essexes, the Sussex, Essex, Sussex, etc. The middle bit of where London is, as compared to the further north you also have the close to Wales, that part of that's Northumbria, if I'm not mistaken. But then you have the moorlands, which they are the even more northern English, which were culturally Danes influenced. That was called the Daneland. Middlesex, yeah, thank you, Silurian, my friend, thank you. Yes, I don't know the regions of the UK. I'll have to think about them, but I do know them. So yeah, Mercia, yes, the Mercians, the northern parts. They even today they are culturally unique in comparison to, say, like I said, the Cornwallians. And this would be the same with Iceland. If it was an island colonized by the quote unquote the Vikings, but the quote unquote the Vikings included the Danes and the Norwegians and the Swedes, mostly, not all, hashtag, but mostly from those three geographical areas. So of course they would have brought in their own cultural peculiarities. So we are now finishing excavating the third burial of the six, which are located there. Another reason I've read that. Yeah, you can see them excavating. That's metallic, so that would be something. You can tell by the bluish tinges of metal, of iron. Iron rust becomes red and this funny blue-green thing. I'll just interrupt. Leaking monkey. See, you haven't answered the most important question of all this. Was the archaeologist that discovered this wearing a sexist shirt? No. But I know the reference point. I follow him. He is my hero. Matt Taylor is a hero of mine. I look up to him. He's a genius. I know what you mean, yes. But no. God damn it. I have these weird, so many bits of no, what do you mean no? Yes. The guy, the engineer, the NASA engineer that landed the oh yeah, of course I'm correct. I know what I think. Well, yeah, Matt Taylor is God damn it! If he was Portuguese and he was in Portugal, he would not get rid of that. He could wear whatever the fuck he wanted. He would never be criticized. Yeah. Well, anyway, let's. I don't want to put in politics in, guys. I'm sticking. This is my escape from what's been happening this week in the world, and I'm not going to leave it for now. So let's get back to my calming nirvana. The archaeologist is excavating very, very meticulously because the site is delicate, as always. The items recovered from the site have yet to be analyzed and dated, which, because they have been slightly damaged, it'll be a bit not impossible or hard. It'll be a bit tedious. The metals can be easily dated because using isometric and using any form of radiometric dating, even analyzing the isotopes of the area where the metal came from. It's easier to do. They will do it. It'll obviously take time. The archaeologists working at the site of the burials have dated it to the 10th century, the time Iceland was being settled, and shortly thereafter. The graves already excavated seem to belong to men of high status and significant wealth. The swords, the shields, and the spears, they are the indications of a high-ranking, wealthy Viking or person in that. Even in all of medieval, of this period of time, Europe, anyone who had an iron sword, depends on the sword, but mostly an iron sword would have been quite a sword, a shield, and a spear. If you had the three, you would have been quite wealthy. Not necessarily a chiefdom, no, because there are not necessarily a chiefdom, just a high-ranking person. Someone who was wealthy, who had a lot of cattle, for example, a lot of treasure, that etc. Good fighter, something like that. That's how I'm interpreting how the normal or not the normal, how the vast majority of how wealth is displayed in human um, human societies after, of course, after agriculture, after we did become settled societies and so on. If you had some precious metals, gold, silver, more silver than gold even, then he would have been possibly the chieftain or even higher ranking than these were. So yes, but just the size of them, the burials was not totally necessary indication of their wealth, but it is a good starting point, of course. And then they are discovering this. The graves already discovered seem to belong to men of high status and wealth, as only chiefs could afford to be buried in boats. Yeah, possibly as well. Yeah. So yeah, sizes of mounds could similarly point to significance of the site. Again, I don't know. I'm reading this as we go along. I haven't read this, so I'm reacting as I did. Yeah. Where I live, we have megalithic tombs dating from the 5th millennium to the second millennium to the second millennium BC, from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age, and megalithic tombs were the grave sites of the chief, and so these would be the same. The boat burials would have been the chieftain's burial place. So yeah. The fact that the graves have to be left seem to have been left mostly undisturbed by grave robbers is also unusual. Many Viking burials discovered in Iceland have been disturbed and robbed. For example, the second boat grave, which was discovered at Kumholt 11 years ago, had been opened and disturbed at some point. This is what the place looks like. Here we have the archaeologists working. They're taking away an artifact. You can see the bay. I'm sure that in raging storms, this site would have been pounded and eroded. So yeah. And the archaeologists have determined that burial mounds were usually reopened and robbed relatively shortly after they were constructed. Yeah, if you see the chieftain buried with this awesome sword, you wanted it. How do you get it? You don't go to a shopping center. You just dig up the where he was buried in. It is impossible to know what valuables and artifacts have been removed from the disturbed graves. Yes, if they were chieftains burial chiefs burial sites, they would have had precious metals, obviously, silver, gold, etc. And the grave robbers took those. The ones that were undisturbed, they left the swords. The ones that were disturbed, the swords may be missing, because swords were a valuable commodity. And the area where the ship burial was found is known as Diesnes, a name which points to Viking age graves, as Dies is an old word for burial mound. The word Diesnes could translate as burial nest. So there we have it, guys. We've traveled from a 13 million year old skull, and you can see it in the sidebar here, all the way to Mesoamerica with some corn DNA, corn evolution and corn domestication. And we came into relatively modern times with a Viking burials, which are always exciting. I love burials per se. You always find interesting things in them. So yes, now I can. How much time we got? Oh, Oh, I talked a lot. 5 minutes before sort of end. Skull. So, you guys have been talking politics. I won't talk politics. I will just say I want the 12-kilometer wide meteor to slam into Earth very soon. We need it. So that's just me. No, I don't want that to happen. I'm being a dick. Sorry about that, guys. I get depressed by current events, and archaeology is my release, my go-to relaxing place, etc., etc. Okay, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's been no, I can't. I mean, no, apocalypse, not now. We can wait. But socioarchaeology. What the fuck is that? Please tell me that that's just another basket weaving course. Carlos, you can call me Carlos, Tommy. What do you think of the name Viking Age? Some Danish archaeologists talk about changing it to Carbon Age. No, Viking Age is okay. Well, it's not actually an age. It's part of the of what I know of the bit of history. It's part of the what was called the Dark Ages. So it was just after was. Yeah, I'm fine with Viking Age. Better than bloody Carbon Age. What the fuck's that? Carbon Age. If they're talking about steel, it's been Rome did that. So Rome, well, not even Rome. The Iron Age, up until now, could be Carbon Age, even though we're more into the Plastic Age, I think, or the aluminium, as Australians say it, and as the correct way of saying it, aluminium age. That we have a lot of aluminium and plastic. Yeah. Yeah, well, yes, it is. Yes, it was, Tommy. Yes, most of the ages, quote unquote, were invented in the 1800s, and they are being refined every day. They are being refined. There are errors that haven't changed. Like we finished the Pleistocene, and now we're in the Eocene. The Eocene. No, wait. Miocene, Pleistocene, Miocene, Eocene. I think we're still in the Eocene. I'm not very good at actually the errors. If I read about them, I know what they mean, but I apologize for that. The Holocene. Yes, thank you. Okay, that's what I wanted to say. The Holocene. We are in the Holocene. So yeah. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for being on, and putting up with my sometimes babbling way of talking. I enough facts to counter my babbling, but I think I did. Yeah, I know I did. So see you again. It'll come back on Monday next week again. Yesterday, like I said, last night, my dad wanted to go out, and I can't refuse my dad. So I postponed it for today. So anyway, thank you guys, and